welcome to the Instagram Stories for Saturday, June 28th. I'm your host, Daniel Hill, and this is the weekend edition. Today on the show, we're going to get into some Threads news with a new feature that they're rolling out separate from Instagram called Hidden Words. Additionally, TikTok is launching a new feature called Bulletin Board, which seems to be very similar to what Instagram has with broadcast channels. There's also a new social media movie we're going to talk about. You might remember the Social Network movie from 2010, commonly called the Facebook movie. Director Alan Sorkin is making a sequel to that, which we will talk about briefly, and we'll have some AI news. I'm working on a new AI news podcast with co-host Ashley Coffey, so you'll hear some of that. All of this and more on today's episode, but first, here's a quick word from our sponsors. Welcome back. Let's start with the Threads news. By way of context, Instagram has for a long time had a feature called Hidden Words. They originally rolled this out when Taylor Swift was dealing with a lot of backlash from the Kardashian family, and many people were commenting snake emojis on her posts. The Instagram team implemented the Hidden Words feature so Taylor Swift could block that snake emoji, and then they turned it on for everyone else. So we all had the ability to block whatever we want in Instagram comments. When Threads rolled out, it used the Hidden Words list that you made on Instagram. So those two apps shared one Hidden Words list. The head of Instagram, Adam Mosseri, announced on Thursday that Threads now has its own Hidden Words setting, separate from Instagram. He says, quote, "This includes newly added custom filters to block out words, phrases, and emojis in batches with optional time limits. Threads is about fostering an open exchange of perspectives, and to do so, people need to be able to shape the experience into one where they feel comfortable expressing themselves. This is just one more idea in support of that goal." End quote. The screenshots he included from inside the Threads app have a toggle to turn on the ability to hide common offensive words in replies, and then also shows the way you can make your own custom filter. And it says, hide posts with certain words. They won't show up in your feeds, and when you search, you can choose to reveal them. If a reply to one of your posts uses these words, only the person who wrote it will see it. I think that's a great explanation. And what I also like is you now have the ability to turn on a custom filter based on time. So, for instance, say you're watching a TV show that you really like, and you think you might see some spoilers about that in your Threads feed. You can turn on a filter for whatever words you might think would be related to that TV show, and you can turn it on for 30 days or a certain other amount of time, and then you'll see a countdown for how many days you have left in that timer where you're hiding those specific words or phrases. This is also an interesting thing to do, perhaps if you are tired of hearing political news and it's an upcoming election in X amount of days. That might be another creative way that you can use this. I will link to Adam Mosseri's post on Threads about this new feature. Make sure that your app is updated to ensure you have all the latest features. Let's move on to the TikTok news. Christina Garnett on Threads is reporting that brands are now inviting people to join a TikTok bulletin board, similar to the way people were invited to join brands' Instagram broadcast channels. She included a screenshot of People magazine inviting her to a bulletin board, which looks exactly like an Instagram broadcast channel. You can even react with emojis, just like you can on Instagram broadcast channels. Just as a reminder, the whole concept of a broadcast channel is to eliminate the need potentially for an email newsletter, or an alternative way to give the content in an email newsletter to a group of super devoted fans, or a way to ensure that your super devoted fans subscribe to something where you can share information with them on a regular basis. So if you were thinking about starting an email newsletter, or maybe you have one already, a broadcast channel is a great way to use similar content for that very core group of people. And now you can potentially do the same thing on TikTok with broadcast channels. I'm not sure that this is rolled out widely yet, but of course I will keep you posted as that progresses. Moving on. Do you remember the movie The Social Network back in 2010? Just as a reminder, it starred Jesse Eisenberg playing Mark Zuckerberg. It starred Andrew Garfield, Justin Timberlake. Here's a clip to refresh your memory in case you forgot.
Drop the just Facebook.
Just as a reminder, Alan Sorkin is the one who wrote the screenplay for The Social Network, and now he is coming back to write what is going to potentially be called Part 2. The original movie, The Social Network, was based on the book The Accidental Billionaires. However, part two is going to be based on The Facebook Files, which was the Wall Street Journal's article series that explored all the harms that Facebook has caused over the years. I'm sure that Instagram is going to factor in a major way into the script of this movie as it develops. We are going to take a quick break. When we come back, I'm going to sit down with Ashley Coffey and we're going to talk about some AI news that involves social media. Stick around. Welcome back. Ashley Coffey and I are working to launch a new podcast that we're calling AI News. That's the working title. It might change. And as a test, we are recording our first couple of episodes to see how they sound, how they come across, and looking for ways to make them better before we fully launch. I guess you might refer to this as a soft launch. Here's the episode that we recorded yesterday.
Hi, welcome to the AI Update. I'm your host, Ashley Coffey.
And I'm Daniel Hill. Every week in 12 minutes, we cover all the AI news stories you need to know about.
So let's go ahead and dive in for this week. Our top story this week, we're going to start with an interview with LinkedIn CEO Ryan Roslansky on how AI is affecting the jobs market, specifically with AI agents and dealing with fake AI-generated accounts. And this is something really specific because so many people are having a hard time getting their job application through to a human to actually read it. So it's been interesting to see the LinkedIn CEO talk about this in depth and how wild and out of control it's really gotten. So if you have applied for a job, you probably have seen a lot of applicant tracking systems and kind of not being optimized in the right way. But the standout from this article that I wanted to really highlight for everyone listening with the AI shift is that we are looking at a complete paradigm shift of how we look for jobs. And LinkedIn is continuing to be a great platform for people to write thought-leading articles or share recent job updates. But everyone knows that everyone's leaning into AI agents really hard right now, but there are really varying degrees of how well they can execute on tasks. So we'll leave a link into the show notes if you want to go ahead and read the long version of that story. Highly recommend.
Do you think that all of the steps that it takes to apply to a job now are worth it? And that's something that I struggle with because the amount of things you have to do after you upload before you upload your resume, create an account for each individual company's workday, upload your resume, make sure it's all filled in properly. Sometimes it asks you to fill in that information, even though you just uploaded your resume with all that information. Mm-hmm. Companies ask for cover letters. And I think, who's reading these cover letters? And should I even take the time to write it? So maybe I will use AI, but then if everyone's just using AI to write the cover letters, how does anybody stand out? The whole thing is just such a frustrating experience in 2025. And I think LinkedIn is just as much to blame for this problem as Workday and some of the other ATS applicant tracking systems. What are your thoughts on that process right now?
I 100% agree, Daniel. I've seen it change so much just in the past 5 years. And I got a chance to interview 5 major companies that actually produce applicant tracking system platforms for companies like Starbucks and asked their data scientists how they are making sure that they're not rejecting qualified applicants. So it really all boils down to how these companies are building their language learning models, where they're getting their data sets from, and are they actually having a human in the loop? And here's something that I noticed on this note, Daniel, and people that are listening probably see it as well. Repetitive information input. I've talked to Allstate and so many other companies this week because I got into a car accident with someone. I'm fine. But I've had to repeat the same information at least 10 times. And it's so frustrating. And I will say to the person, I'm like, hey, I've already given you this information, but I'm happy to give it to you again. And that tells me the information is not syncing up in some way, shape, or form. And us as users, it's the onus on us to keep putting that information in, but it's just not a good use of time. So I think we really should take a step back and ask ourselves what is necessary in applicant tracking systems to have turned on.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I'd love to see corporate executives, high-level people apply through the process that people who are looking for a job have to do. And people say, oh, you need to work harder, apply to more. I don't think applying to more jobs is the solution. But if you've ever gotten a rejection email 10 minutes after you've applied for a job on a weekend, I've experienced that. No human looked at your resume. And that's just an incredibly frustrating experience.
It really is. And for everyone out there that's looking for a job, don't give up. Continue. Look for ways to diversify yourself and do not copy paste things directly from ChatGPT. I will say that there is metadata that is within the text that you copy and paste within ChatGPT. So if you copy that, put it onto a CV and just as is, send it in, applicant tracking systems can see that you used AI for that. So be a little bit smart whenever you're doing stuff like this and look for ways to stand out.
I don't think it's fair to penalize candidates for doing that, though, especially if all the applicant tracking systems are using AI to determine whether or not you qualify. So I think, if it's fair for one side to do, it has to be fair for the other side to do. But to your point, yes, it can be detected 100%. Okay, we're going to take a quick break for a word from our sponsors, but when we come back, Ashley Coffey and I are going to dive into a new Google Photos feature that you absolutely should be using. If you're a content creator, social media marketer who needs to organize photos, videos, find what you need quickly, you're going to want to know about this. Stick around. Welcome back. Here's the next part of a new podcast Ashley Coffey and I are soft launching called AI News. And in this, we talk about a new Google Photos feature that you need to know.
All right, so this next headline, Daniel, you're really excited about it. So Google Photos merges classic search with AI to speed up results, which is really exciting. So tell me why that you wanted us to cover this, Daniel.
So one of the things that I see people do a lot is when they are looking for a photo on their phone, they scroll back to find that specific photo. And Google Photos does a wonderful job of indexing your photos by searching what's actually inside of them. And it's been doing that for many years. This is not a new thing. So I could type, New York into my Google Photos and we'll find all the pictures of where I was in New York State or Manhattan, landmarks that relate to New York, whatever. And they added AI to that search, which then made the search worse. But now they're combining the original search way and AI to make that search better. So if you want to quickly find a photo, you can, or a video. And I think for people who are content creators, social media marketers, if you have a really good database of photos on your phone or on your computer that you loaded into Google Photos, you'll now be able to find them even quicker. And I think that makes the whole content creation process a lot easier when you can reference that old content, new content, whatever it is, by what was in the photo or where you were when you took the video. And all of that really helps the process.
Tremendously. I have like 60,000 plus photos. And if I'm looking through that, I've got to be able to know. So like searching the word license plate whenever I need to look up my license plate or my driver's license, like things that you need to reference, or it's so helpful and it saves so much time.
Yes, I absolutely do that. Every time I use the parking meter, I have to search car in my phone and I find a picture of I took my license plate. Yes.
Yeah, especially if you're driving a rental car, right? And you're out and about and you have no idea what it is. So, or outfits, if you need to look at, what was the shoe that I was wearing? Look at shoe or high heel. So definitely take advantage of that if you're listening, and that will save you some time when you're ever trying to show your friend the latest, greatest thing.
Absolutely. Or something that happened in the past that you want to share.
Yes. And on that front, like I try to, every now and then I try to do some digital hygiene and spend, whenever I'm on an airplane is when I try to go through my photos and delete all the stuff that I don't need and kind of get rid of it. So I recommend everyone maybe set some time, an hour or 30 minutes, like once a quarter, to do some digital hygiene, just clean up the stuff that you don't need. That way you have a little bit of a cleaner bucket of stuff to work with.
Yes. And this way you don't use up all your available storage space. Okay, I'm not going to play the whole thing on the show, but I just wanted to give you an idea of what we're working on together. You can send me a DM at Daniel Hill Media with what your thoughts are on what Ashley Coffey and I are creating. And you can find links to the articles we talked about in that part of the interview and in the entire show in the show notes just below the episode. As always, thank you for listening, and be sure to come back next time for more social media news, strategy, and other things that you need to know.
Let me tell you a couple things that you should know about me. A product manager, but do not have a bachelor's degree. But actually, that's factually a fraction of me. Another fraction's posting content irregular and irrationally. Still probably won't get a job at the Gram. They forgot, they don't know, or don't care who I am. That's why you never see me at the parties and events. My lack of followers must make me irrelevant. Don't have a course, a book to sell to make a bag of grand. Not a social media marketer, don't represent any brands. Plain to see, don't have an agency, but I got a lot of spam. Just putting in my work without the glitz and glam. Won't catch me eating fish unless it's shrimp or clam. No six pack, no risk that there's a gym card in my hand. Don't have a full-time job, but I got a lot of plans. Stay plotting, dropping knowledge on TikTok and Instagram.